Today, as part of our learning relating to the design part of the software, because whenever we wants to develop any application or a software, uh, developing an architecture is important. Because in the previous sessions, I discussed about the importance of architecture. What are the different architectures we have? Something like enterprise architecture, in that business architecture, application systems, data, solution architecture, all that were discussed. But if you want to develop in architecture for any of the application, it's always important for us to understand about the software designing system. So how software designing should be looks like, and what are all the different elements which are there in software design. So today I am going to discuss about the software designing, what exactly software design is all about. To make it very simple for you to understand, software design is something which we call it as a process, something which is helpful for us to create a plan, or else at the same time, if you want to create a design of an application, something more or less like a blueprint of the building, blueprint of the software. Let's say, for example, you are going to construct a building. You require some blueprint. In the same manner, if you want to develop any software, always important for us to have some blueprint of the software, which we need to develop, because whenever you want to design a software designing, this is something which is essentially required and something useful. This is point number one. Point number two, the next we need to understand what are the different levels in the software, because whenever we try to understand the software designing, generally the software designing will be of three different levels. Software design will be of three levels. Okay, three levels of software design we will be having. Any software design, normally we have three different levels we have. The first one about the interface design. Second one is called architecture design. The third one is called detailed designing. I'm making it's simple, right? So I want to make it very simple as it can. Okay, hence so that you guys will understand this better in detail, right? So the detail part of it, that is different, right? So because there are a lot of things that are to be known, right? So when it comes to the application development. So these are the three things. One is about the interface design, second is an architecture design, the third one is called detailed design. Interface design is the first thing. Generally, interface design majorly focuses on specifying the interaction between the system and as well as the user. Because let's say you are developing some core banking application to one of your customer who belongs to banking segment. Core banking, as you know, core banking is a backend application widely used across industries where to manage backend operations of any bank. So when it comes to the interface designing itself is concerned, whenever we try to understand about the interface designing, it majorly specifies you about how the interface has been developed, or the develop specifies the interaction between the software and as well as the user. Means how we need to use the application. Let's say that, for example, you want to use core banking application, how the core banking application should be useful, and we use it, right? So how this can operate by us, right? So how this can be used. This is all comes under the interface design. This is point number one. The next one is called architecture design. Yeah, yeah. Next one is called architecture design. Normally, architecture design majorly focusing on the kind of components which are there in the system, followed by the kind of relationship among the systems, is all comes under the architecture. Because components can be anything. It can be hardware component, it can be a business component, it can be a software component. So there are different components will be there. So understanding about the components of the system and how then generally these components were interconnected or interrelated. To know that, generally, whatever are we going to prepare is called architecture design. This is point number 2. Third one is called detailed design. Detailed design majorly focusing on the internal elements. What are the different internal elements we have? Means what are the different components we have and what are the different relations we will be having. Followed by this, what are the different data structures and algorithms are we using? This data design can also be called as low-level design also. Right. So this low-level design, so this detailed designing can also be considered and called as low-level designing. Because let's say if you are going to write some application, what are the different modules we are using? How many programs we use? What are the algorithms are we using? What are the different design patterns we use? Everything comes under the low-level design part. So these are the three basic things which normally will be there whenever you are creating a software design, all that stuff. Now, when it comes to the design process, right? So when you're trying to understand about the software design process, there are different steps are there in this process. This I am going to discuss in the next session.